Did you crawl in from the slums, dirty poor?
I'm a guest tonight.
A guest wearing that dress?
Did you steal this invitation, or did some man carry you in?
Go back to your slums.
Ava clutched the gold-plated invitation in her pocket, knuckles white. She looked directly at the arrogant Whitmore family.
How dare you all speak to me like that?
As soon as Ava finished her question, Vivian blushed crimson. Eleanor's eyes blazed with fury.
Oh!
Get out!
Get out!
The phone shattered on the marble floor. Harrison's jaw clenched on the dais. He signaled security. The four Whitmores forced the black woman toward the door, together, while 400 guests laughed. None of them knew the woman they were laughing at owned the chairs they were sitting on. The Plaza Ballroom had been polished for a week. 200 staff, 40 cases of Krug Grande Cuvée, $25,000 a plate. The string quartet played Mendelssohn under a chandelier that held 2,000 crystal teardrops. This was the 12th annual Whitmore Foundation Charity Gala. The theme this year, printed in gold across the program, read, "Bridging the Wealth Gap, Investing in Diverse Futures." The irony would be funny in a few hours. Right now, nobody was laughing yet. 3 United States senators stood at the bar. The deputy mayor of New York worked the room with a champagne flute that never seemed to empty. 6 Fortune 500 CEOs whispered about quarterly earnings near the dais. 30 press credentials hung from lanyards. Vogue, Bloomberg, the New York Times Style Desk, the Wall Street Journal. At the center of it all moved the Whitmores. Harrison Whitmore, 62, silver hair, Yale class of 1985, shook hands like a man cashing checks. The official line was that he built Whitmore Holdings from a Palo Alto garage in 1998. He had told that story so many times he believed it himself. Eleanor Whitmore moved through her donors in slow figure eights. 59, pearls down to her sternum. She kissed the air beside each cheek. Behind every smile, she noted exactly how much each woman had given last year and how much more she expected tonight. Spencer Whitmore, the heir, leaned on a marble column scrolling Instagram analytics. 280,000 followers. He posted a story of the chandelier with the caption, "Daddy's Gala Vibes." 3,000 likes in 2 minutes. Vivian, his wife, posed for a Vogue photographer in a Valentino gown the foundation had not paid for. She tilted her chin the way her image consultant had taught her. She smiled with her eyes only when the lens was on. This was the family the country knew, the family the press loved, the self-made billion-dollar dynasty. 12 blocks south, that morning, a different story had begun. Ava Carrington stood in the kitchen of her Brooklyn Heights brownstone with an iron in her hand. She had been awake since 5. She had read the Wall Street Journal in silence at the kitchen island. She pressed the wrinkles out of a navy silk dress that cost $212 at a department store sale. She did not own a stylist. She did not own a publicist. She owned things that were harder to see. Carrington Equity Partners ran out of a 4-room office in the garment district. There was no nameplate on the door. The website redirected to a blank page. Forbes had tried to put her on its billionaire list 3 years in a row. 3 years in a row, she had refused. Her net worth, last counted, sat at $2.3 billion. She slid the embossed Whitmore invitation into her clutch. Beside it, she slid a sealed manila envelope. Inside the envelope was one document, the morality clause from the 2017 funding agreement, freshly signed and notarized that morning. Theodore Pemberton, her counsel, had brought it over at 6 a.m. Her aide, Nora Hollings, watched from the doorway. "You sure you want to walk in alone?" Nora asked. "Tonight, I go as a guest," Ava said, "not as a board member. I want to see who they are when they don't know who I am." She fastened her mother's pearls behind her neck. The truth, the one Forbes did not have, was this. In 2017, Whitmore Holdings was 4 weeks from bankruptcy. No bank would lend. No private equity firm would touch the books. Ava had cut a check, a loan, for $480 million. In exchange, she took 58% of the parent holding entity that owned Whitmore Holdings. She also wrote into the contract a single-page morality clause. It gave her board the right to remove any Whitmore who damaged the public trust. For 9 years she had stayed quiet because Harrison had asked her to. For 9 years she had let him tell the garage story. Last week, Gerald Hastings, the CFO and the only person inside Whitmore Holdings who knew the truth, had called her. Netflix was preparing a documentary about Harrison. The founder narrative was about to be carved into film. Ava decided it was time to come look at them. The doorman at the plaza was a 60-year-old man named Owen. He had worked that door for 31 years. He had seen women walk through it in chinchilla and women walk through it in lace. He had never seen one walk in this calm. He read her invitation. His eyes flicked up to her face. He looked at the navy dress, the simple pearls, the unmade-up calm. He opened the door. He said nothing. Ava stepped into the ballroom. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The string quartet kept playing. A waiter passed with a tray of seared scallops. 2 donors near the door continued their conversation about Aspen. Then, the looking started. It moved in a slow ripple, a head turning at the bar, a couple by the dais pausing mid-sip, a Vogue photographer lowering his lens. Their eyes did the math the same way. Black woman, plain dress, Plaza Hotel, Whitmore Gala. Wrong equation. A waiter named Tomas, 24, his second week on the job, broke from the kitchen line with a silver tray of canapes. He stopped in front of Ava. He bowed slightly. "Miss, may I take your coat? I mean, are you with catering, ma'am?" Ava smiled at him. The kind of smile a teacher gives a child who answered politely but wrong. "I'm a guest tonight, Tomas, thank you." He read her face. He looked at the embossed gold of the invitation in her clutch. He flushed deep crimson, bowed again, and retreated toward the kitchen at a near run. 20 feet away, Vivian Whitmore watched the exchange. Her eyebrows lifted. She set her glass on a passing waiter's tray without looking, and she began to walk. She walked like a woman who had spent 31 years being told she was beautiful, and almost no time being told she was not the most important person in any room she entered. She arrived at Ava in 8 strides. "Excuse me, service entrance is in the back, sweetie." The sweetie was loud enough for the bar to hear. "I don't know who slipped you in, but you're going to walk right back out the way you came, now, before I make you." Ava did not move. "I have an invitation." "Of course you do." Vivian smiled, the way someone smiles at a child claiming there is a dragon in the closet. "Every con artist has a fake invitation, honey. Move." She reached out and gripped the loose silk at the elbow of Ava's sleeve. She yanked, hard, turning Ava's body a quarter turn toward the lobby. "Let's not embarrass ourselves in front of real people." Ava did not pull her arm back. She lifted the invitation out of her clutch with her free hand and held it up. Vivian glanced at it. Her smile tightened. "What is this? Your library card? Easy to print at Kinko's. Try harder next time you want to crash a real party." A small crowd was forming now. 3 socialites in pastel taffeta, a bond trader with a champagne flute, the Town and Country Society columnist with her sketchpad open. The Vogue photographer had stopped photographing the dais and turned his lens toward the doorway. In the back of the ballroom, a Wall Street Journal reporter named Olivia Sutton lowered her champagne and pulled out a leather notebook. She had come to write 300 words on the Gala for the Monday business section. She was about to write something different. Then Eleanor arrived. Eleanor Whitmore did not walk. She floated. The 59-year-old matriarch made her way through the parting crowd the way an icebreaker moves through pack ice. Her pearls swung at her sternum. Her smile was already arranged. "Vivienne, dear, why is this person still standing in my ballroom?" "She says she has an invitation, mother." Eleanor extended her free hand, palm up, fingers tapping. "Let me see that." Ava handed her the invitation. Eleanor lifted it toward the chandelier light. She turned it. She examined the gold embossing the way a jeweler examines a suspicious diamond. The room had gone quieter. The string quartet was still playing, but the conversations near the door had stopped. Eleanor smiled. "Cute paper. Wrong woman." She tore it. The sound was small, but the room felt it. A clean rip from corner to corner. The kind of sound an auctioneer's gavel makes if you crush it under a heel. Eleanor handed the 2 halves back. Or rather, she did not hand them. She tossed them at Ava's chest. One half stuck briefly to the navy silk before fluttering down. The other landed at Ava's feet. "Now you don't have one," Eleanor said pleasantly. "And you don't have a place here either. Be a darling. Go." Then she lifted her flute. She turned her wrist with the small, precise motion of a woman who had spent decades pouring tea. The pale gold of the Krug arced through the air and soaked into the front of Ava's dress. Champagne ran down Ava's collarbones. It pooled in the fabric over her sternum. It dripped onto her shoes. "Oh dear," Eleanor's voice carried. "Look at you now, soaking. Exactly what I thought you were. You wanted to look like a guest? Now you look like the help. Be a good girl, find a mop, or better yet, find the exit." The bond trader laughed. One of the socialites in pastel taffeta covered her mouth, but she was not horrified. She was hiding a smile. The Vogue photographer raised his camera again. A woman near the dessert station said audibly, "Oh my God, can you believe people just walk in?" Her companion replied, "That's why we pay for vetting." They both laughed. The senator at the bar, Republican, third term, raised his bourbon a quarter-inch in Eleanor's direction. 4 of his campaigns had been funded in part by Whitmore PAC money. Eleanor caught the gesture and smiled slightly, just for him. From the kitchen entrance, Tomas the waiter watched. He had taken 3 steps back toward Ava with the canapé tray. The head of catering caught his elbow and said very quietly, "Don't." Tomas stopped. Ava's breath did not change. Her hand on the clutch did not change. Inside, her fingers had closed around the sealed manila envelope. She could feel the weight of the morality clause through the paper. She did not pull it out. Not yet. Spencer arrived last because he had needed a moment to set up the shot. He had been crossing the ballroom, holding his phone vertically in one hand and his bourbon in the other. By the time he reached the small ring of bodies around his mother, he had Instagram Live open. The red live badge was visible. His viewer count read 4,200. He did not say hello to his mother. He angled the phone toward Ava's face from 18 inches away. "Okay, y'all, you are not going to believe this." He grinned at the camera and then at the chat. POV, when a stray wanders into your gala dressed like she works at the DMV. The viewer count climbed. 12,000, 26,000, 40,000. He read out the chat slowly, deliberately, the way a sports announcer narrates a replay. Some of the words he read were slurs. He read them anyway, laughing. "Look at her face, chat. She's like, 'Oh no, am I lost?' Yes, ma'am, you are. Should we call animal control or just security? I genuinely cannot decide." The viewer count hit 42,000. Across the ballroom, at the bar, Gerald Hastings, the CFO of Whitmore Holdings, 58 years old, 22 years inside the company, turned his head. He froze mid-sentence. He set his glass down so hard the bourbon jumped. He saw Ava. He had not seen Ava in person in 9 years. But he had been the one who drew up the 2017 papers. He had been the one who handed Harrison the pen. He had been the one who knew, every single quarter, who actually owned the company. He thought of the morning Ava had walked into his office in 2017, a small leather portfolio under her arm. $480 million she was willing to spend on a sinking ship. He had eaten at the Whitmore's table for 9 years. He had nodded when Spencer made jokes. He had been complicit. He started walking toward her. Spencer turned the camera, caught Gerald's face, grinned. "Uncle Gerald, sit down. Don't ruin the content." Gerald froze in place between 2 donors. His hand twitched at his side. He looked from his nephew to his sister-in-law to the black woman he hadn't called by name in nearly a decade. He did not move forward. He did not move back. The phone flashlights of nearby guests had begun to come up. 3, 6. A dozen white circles of light landed on Ava's face. The wet silk on her chest reflected them. She blinked once, slow, the way a person blinks against headlights. She turned to face all 4 of them: Vivian, Eleanor, Spencer, the viewers. She spoke quietly. The room had to lean in. "You're going to want to remember this moment." Vivian laughed first. "Or what? Going to file a complaint with whoever runs the shelter you slept at?" Spencer panned the camera back to himself, then over the laughing crowd, then onto the dais. At the dais, Harrison Whitmore, 62, silver hair, the man who built it all from a garage, had noticed his ballroom was no longer fully paying attention to his evening. He frowned. He raised a hand, and the string quartet trailed off mid-phrase. He picked up his microphone. The string quartet died mid-bow. 400 faces turned toward the dais. Harrison Whitmore tapped the head of the microphone twice with his ring finger, and the speakers gave a small, satisfying thunk. He smiled. The smile he had been working since Yale. "Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the interruption." His voice rolled out of the plaza's professional audio system. The venue's main feed captured it cleanly. So did 3 press lavaliers. So did the small recorder a town and country reporter had pinned to her lapel. "There appears to be an uninvited guest in our ballroom. A woman in a navy dress who seems to have wandered in from somewhere else entirely." A ripple of laughter from the bar. A senator chuckled into his bourbon and did not lower it. "Security, would you kindly escort her out before she contaminates any more of our lovely evening?" The laughter got louder. The bond trader applauded once, lazily. "The Whitmore Foundation does not extend its hospitality to those who clearly cannot afford to be here. Thank you. Carry on." He waved the string quartet back into a Vivaldi adagio. He waved the laughter back down into manageable amusement. He waved his hand at his head of security. Across the room, Wesley Brooks, 54, 21 years at the plaza, ex-NYPD, adjusted his earpiece. He had been watching the whole exchange from the staff door since the champagne went on the dress. He had not liked what he had seen. He had liked Eleanor's smile less. Wesley had served 4 tours in Iraq and 21 years at the plaza door. He had ejected princesses, oligarchs, and 1 congressman. He had never been wrong about who belonged. He felt wrong now. But he was plaza security, not Whitmore security, and the Whitmores paid the plaza. He moved. He was 30 feet from Ava when Vivian, who had not stopped staring at her, made the decision she had been threatening to make all night. She did not wait for him. She stepped forward, 1 stride, 2, and she planted both hands flat against Ava Carrington's sternum. She shoved. It was hard. It was deliberate. It was two-handed. It was the kind of push a sister gives her sister in a parking lot fight. Except they were in the plaza ballroom. Vivian was wearing $40,000 of Valentino. Ava was not her sister. Ava staggered backward, 1 step, 2, 3, 4, heels skating on the marble. The string of pearls at her throat snapped, her mother's pearls, the ones she had fastened that morning over the kitchen sink. They hit the floor like dropped sugar. They rolled in every direction under the chandelier. One of them spun for an absurdly long time, the way coins do in cartoons, in the absolute center of the silenced room. A donor's shoe finally stopped it. Ava's clutch went next. It clattered. The manila envelope inside did not come out. Her phone slid 2 feet. Her mother's earring, knocked loose, landed on the carpet runner. "Get out!" Vivian advanced. "Get the hell out of my ballroom!" She shoved again. Ava staggered another foot toward the doors. "Who do you think you are, walking in here, in that, looking like you got off a bus from Newark?" She kept moving forward. Ava's back hit the brass push bar of the ballroom's double doors. "You think you can crash a Whitmore event? You think you can show up here looking like that and stand there like you belong anywhere near my family?" The doors gave behind her under Vivian's force. Ava was now half through them, into the foyer outside. "You don't belong here. You don't belong anywhere near here." This was the moment 3 different lenses, working independently, captured the same image. Spencer's Instagram livestream, viewer count now at 56,000, caught it from his right side at eye level. The 2 hands, the push, the pearls scattering. Olivia Sutton's WSJ press camera caught it from the back of the ballroom. Ava's body breaking the line of the doors, framed perfectly, the chandelier glinting above. The plaza's ceiling-mounted security camera caught it from directly overhead. The camera fed to a hard drive in a basement office. No one in the Whitmore family knew that office existed. 3 angles, 3 independent files, 3 pieces of evidence that would end 4 lives in court. A woman in floor-length silver applauded. 2 more joined her. Someone said, "God, did you see her face?" Someone else said, "She has to be drunk." Spencer's live stream caught it all. The bar's laughter underlined the moment like a sitcom track. Wesley Brooks arrived a full second late. He did what he had been ordered to do. He took Ava by the elbow, gently, and he walked her the rest of the way through the doors. 2 other plaza men flanked her. They did not need to touch her after that. They walked her down the foyer. They walked her past the press wall, where two photographers were already pivoting their cameras off a senator's wife and onto her. The plaza's hospitality manager, a Wharton MBA named Cassandra, was crossing the lobby with a clipboard. She saw the procession. She saw Wesley Brooks's expression. She did not approach. She turned away and pretended to study her clipboard, which had nothing relevant on it. They walked her through the plaza's grand lobby, past the marble columns and the Christmas garland that had gone up too early. They walked her through the revolving door, the one she had entered through 46 minutes before, and onto the curb on Fifth Avenue. Cold November rain on her shoulders, yellow cab lights smearing across the wet pavement, the flash of paparazzi lenses. They had been parked there, waiting for a celebrity to arrive, and they had gotten something they did not understand. A black woman in a champagne-stained dress, being walked out of America's most famous philanthropy gala. The bulbs fired anyway. They fired the way they always did. "Ma'am, are you injured?" a photographer shouted. "Ma'am, what's your name?" another called. "What designer is the dress, ma'am? Who invited you?" The questions overlapped. Ava did not answer any of them. She stood with the rain darkening her hair. Her face stayed composed in a way that would later become the cover of New York Magazine. Inside the ballroom, Harrison Whitmore smiled at his crowd. "As I was saying, Whitmore Holdings was built on merit. We don't apologize for excellence." The room rose to its feet, a standing ovation. The string quartet swelled back into Vivaldi. Outside, on the curb, Ava Carrington did not cry. She did not check her face in a window. She did not pick at the wet silk on her sternum. She opened her clutch, briefly. The sealed manila envelope was still inside, damp at one corner. The 2017 morality clause was still inside. The seal had not broken. A black town car pulled up at the curb. Nora Hollings was behind the wheel. She got out. Her face was the color of a person who had heard things on a phone she should not have been hearing. "Are you—" "I'm fine, Nora. Pop the trunk." Nora popped the trunk. Ava reached in and took out a thin black leather portfolio. She did not get into the car. She turned and walked back toward the revolving door. "Miss Carrington, I need you to do one thing for me. Call Theo. He's on standby. Should I?" Ava had already pulled her phone out of her own clutch. She dialed. The call connected on the first ring. "Theo," she said, "bring everything." She hung up. 12 blocks south, in a Madison Avenue office, Theodore Pemberton, 51, charcoal suit, partner at her firm, stood up from his desk. He had been waiting on this exact call for 9 years. He had drafted the morality clause himself in 2017, on the night Ava signed the $480 million check. He had not lost his copy of the agreement once in 9 years. It lived in a fireproof safe behind a Diego Rivera print. He opened the safe. He took out the file. He picked up the compliance binder. He looked at his two associates, both already in their coats. Now. They moved. Back at the plaza, Ava stepped onto the curb's edge. She looked up at the revolving door she had been pushed out through. She looked at the doorman, Owen, who was watching her through the brass and glass with his hands on his lapels. He opened his mouth. He closed it. He stepped aside. She walked back in. She walked back through the foyer. The press wall photographers, half of them still pivoting from the curb, caught her. Same woman, same dress, going back in. None of them yet understood what they were photographing. They photographed it anyway, the way photographers always photograph things their bodies recognize before their minds do. Ava Carrington walked back into the Plaza Ballroom at 9:47 p.m. Theodore Pemberton was on her right. Charcoal suit, file box under one arm. Two associates flanked him, a junior partner and a paralegal. Gerald Hastings, the CFO, fell in beside them at the lobby. His tie was loose. His face was the color of paper. Wesley Brooks stood at the threshold of the ballroom's double doors. He held up one palm. "Ma'am, I have orders." Theo did not slow. He pulled a single page out of his jacket and pressed it into Wesley's palm without breaking stride. Wesley looked down. He read for 4 seconds. He read it again. He looked back up at Ava. "Ma'am," he said, "I am so sorry." He stepped aside. The double doors opened. The same doors Ava had been shoved through 22 minutes earlier, and the procession walked through. The string quartet was playing the Vivaldi Adagio. Harrison was at the dais, mid-sentence, smiling at a senator's joke. The fork that dropped first belonged to a woman in floor-length silver, the same woman who had applauded the shove. Harrison saw the procession second. His sentence stopped halfway through the word excellence. Eleanor saw them third. Her flute hovered. Her smile slipped a half-inch and did not come back. Vivian saw them fourth. She mouthed something, "Who let her back?" and got no further. Spencer was the last to see. His phone was still live streaming. Viewer count 180,000. He swung the lens onto Ava, Theo, Gerald. His chat went silent for the first time in an hour. Then it exploded. Theo walked the length of the ballroom carpet, past the staring tables, past the trembling senator. He climbed the 4 stairs of the dais. He extended his hand. Harrison, conditioned by 62 years of being deferred to, handed him the microphone. Theo tapped it once. Speakers gave a small, satisfying thunk. The same thunk Harrison had used to silence the room 90 minutes before. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice was calm. The kind of calm that lawyers use when they have already won. "My name is Theodore Pemberton, Managing Partner, Carrington Equity Partners. I'd like to introduce my client, the principal investor in Whitmore Holdings, Miss Ava Carrington." The silence that followed was not confusion. It was the silence of 400 wealthy people calculating, very quickly, what they had just laughed at. Gerald Hastings stepped forward at the foot of the dais. He took the second microphone, the one the auctioneer had been using earlier, and he raised it. "It's true," Gerald said. His voice cracked once. "Ms. Carrington has held the controlling interest in Whitmore Holdings' parent entity since November 2017. 58%. I drew up the papers myself." Someone at the back of the room said audibly, "Oh my God." Ava climbed the stairs of the dais. She did not take the microphone from Theo. She did not need amplification. The room had already leaned in. She looked at Harrison, then Eleanor, then Spencer, then Vivian, then the 400 guests, then the security camera in the back corner. When she spoke, her voice did not rise. "I came tonight as a guest. I was told I didn't belong." She paused. The room held. "So I came back as the owner." Theo opened the fireproof file box on the small podium. He laid out the documents like an auctioneer laying out a Picasso provenance. The 2017 funding agreement. The wire transfers, $480 million. The holding company ownership chart. And the single page that mattered most, the morality clause. He clipped each document to the dais so the press cameras could read them. He set the morality clause on top. He read aloud the relevant section. 2 sentences, 26 total words. The Board of Carrington Equity Partners reserve the right to remove any Whitmore officer whose public conduct damaged the enterprise. He closed the binder. "As of 9:48 p.m. this evening," Theo said into the microphone, "the board has voted to invoke that clause. Effective immediately." Harrison Whitmore had not moved. His mouth was slightly open. His finger was still on the dead head of his own microphone. Eleanor's hand had risen to her throat. The pearls there, real, expensive, paid for with Ava's money, flashed once under the chandelier. Spencer was looking at his phone. The chat had crossed 220,000 viewers. He tried to laugh. It came out as a cracked syllable. Vivian began to cry. The waterproof mascara she had paid $290 for was not waterproof. It tracked down both cheeks. The plaza ceiling-mounted security camera in the back corner, the one no one in the Whitmore family knew existed, recorded all of it. Olivia Sutton was writing without looking at her notebook. She wrote one word over and over until her hand stopped. The word was empire. Vivian moved first. She lunged toward Ava, mascara already tracking down both cheeks. "You can't do this. We built this." Ava did not raise her voice. "You signed for the capital. I provided the capital." Harrison's mouth was still open. His mind was finding the angle, like always. He stepped down from the dais. He extended one palm toward Ava, the way men extend palms toward dogs. "Ava, Miss Carrington, please, there must be a misunderstanding." There was. Ava looked through him. "Yours." Theodore Pemberton lifted the resolution. He read it the way a judge reads a verdict. "By unanimous vote of the Carrington Equity Board, effective 9:48 p.m. tonight. Harrison Whitmore, removed as CEO of Whitmore Holdings and the Foundation. Spencer Whitmore, removed as VP Marketing, stock options canceled. Eleanor Whitmore, removed as Foundation Chair, all signing authority revoked. Vivian Whitmore's brand contracts with Whitmore Holdings, including Vivi by Whitmore, voided tonight. 4 mouths opened. 4 lives ended in the same sentence. Eleanor's hand was at her wrist before she knew it was moving. The bracelet of pearls there, 6 rows, 24 years old, anniversary gift from Harrison, was being squeezed by her own fingers. The string snapped. Pearls scattered for the second time that night. Eleanor's lips were the color of paper. Spencer was looking at his phone. The chat had crossed 300,000 viewers. Every single comment was a variation of one word: nice. He tried to laugh. It came out as a dry retch. His face was no longer red. His face was no color at all. He shouted, suddenly, at no one and everyone, "Get her out of here! This is our ballroom." Wesley Brooks moved before Spencer finished the sentence. He stepped between Spencer and Ava. His hand did not touch his sidearm, but his body had remembered every drill it had ever run. "Sir," Wesley said, voice flat, "I need you to lower your voice." Spencer stared. He had never been told to lower his voice by anyone earning under 7 figures. His mouth worked. Nothing came out. The same security team, the same 3 men who had taken Ava by the elbow 22 minutes earlier, now turned toward the Whitmores. Wesley's voice, the same calm command voice from the door. "Mr. Whitmore, Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Whitmore, Mrs. Whitmore, please come with us." Harrison's jaw, which had clenched on the dais, now sagged. He stepped down and walked woodenly toward the lobby. His ring finger still twitched against the dead microphone he was no longer holding. Vivian tried to run. 2 Plaza officers took her by both arms in the foyer. A 3rd officer was a real NYPD detective. He'd arrived after Nora's 911 call. He produced a pair of handcuffs. "Mrs. Whitmore," the detective said, "you are under arrest for misdemeanor assault. The complainant is the woman you shoved on 3 independent video angles." The handcuffs closed around Vivian's wrists. The waterproof mascara on her face was now down to her chin. The sound she made was no longer human. "Do you know who I am?" she screamed. Into the phone cameras now turned on her, the same cameras that had laughed 90 minutes earlier. A reporter near the lobby door, Olivia Sutton of the Wall Street Journal, opened her phone and tapped out a single tweet. "Whitmore family removed from own Gala. More to follow." The tweet had 18,000 retweets before Vivian reached the curb. Spencer's phone was confiscated as evidence by the same NYPD officer. He did not resist. His hands were shaking too hard to grip anything. Inside the ballroom, 400 wealthy people were standing in absolute silence. They were watching their own future memos to their own legal teams flash behind their eyes. The string quartet did not know what to play. They played nothing. Ava Carrington stood at the foot of the dais, the manila envelope still in her hand, the rain still drying on her shoulders. She had not raised her voice once. The headline ran above the fold of the Wall Street Journal Monday business section. "The investor they shoved out. How the Whitmores lost their empire in one night." Byline: Olivia Sutton. 3,400 words, 6 photographs. The cover image was a still from Spencer's own live stream. Ava Carrington, navy silk soaked with champagne. The gold invitation lifted in her left hand. 4 Whitmore mouths open mid-laugh behind her. By noon, the article had been read 4 million times. By Tuesday, it had been read 14 million. Hashtag Justice for Ava trended at #1 on 3 continents. Within 6 hours, it had branched. Hashtag The Real Owner. Hashtag Shove Heard. Hashtag Dirty Poor, which had been Vivian's opening line, was being printed on t-shirts in Brooklyn by Wednesday. 60 Minutes called Ava's office. She declined. Vanity Fair offered the cover. She declined. Oprah's people called Theo personally. He thanked them and ended the call in under 60 seconds. Ava Carrington had not given a single interview. That was the story Olivia ran with too. The silence that bought an empire. Ava read the WSJ piece in her Brooklyn Heights kitchen at 5:45 Monday morning. She read it once. She set the paper down. She went to her garment district office at 9, the way she had every Monday for 9 years. By Tuesday morning, Whitmore Holdings stock opened at $148.20. By the closing bell, it sat at $113.40, a drop of 23% in a single trading day. The market lost $41 billion of Whitmore family paper wealth between 9:30 and 4 o'clock. 2 defense contracts, one with the Department of Defense, one with Northrop Grumman, were paused pending an independent board ethics review. The Pentagon's press release used the word regrettable twice in 2 sentences. The Vivi by Whitmore beauty line was dropped by Sephora at 11 a.m. Tuesday. Ulta followed at noon. Nordstrom posted a statement at 1:15. By 5 p.m. on Wednesday, 8,000 units of pink and gold mascara had been pulled from shelves. The waterproof shade had not held under pressure on Saturday night either. Vivian, out on $25,000 bond, watched the Sephora press release on her phone in the back of a black car. The mascara on her face was a different brand now. She had bought it at a Duane Reade. It also was not holding. By Wednesday afternoon, the Securities and Exchange Commission opened a formal inquiry into Whitmore Holdings founder disclosures. 9 years of self-made public filings were now under subpoena. Gerald Hastings, sweating, cooperative, immunity deal pending, was the first to testify. He had brought the 2017 file box himself. Harrison Whitmore was subpoenaed personally on Thursday morning. He sat in the beige deposition room on the 22nd floor of a midtown office building. His lawyer was beside him. A court reporter was in front of him. He pled the Fifth Amendment 34 consecutive times. His ring finger twitched against the table for 90 minutes. The court reporter noted it on the record. Spencer Whitmore was served Friday afternoon. A class action lawsuit had been filed by 63 current and former minority employees of Whitmore Holdings. The lead exhibit was the Instagram live video from Saturday night. The second exhibit was 4 years of internal Slack messages, over 2,000 of them. Spencer had used language the plaintiff's attorney would later read aloud in court. One thread became the cover screenshot of the complaint. Spencer had written it in October 2021 about a black supply chain manager. The attorney would call it the smoking gun in 7 words. His Instagram account was suspended permanently Saturday morning. His Twitter 4 hours after that. Eleanor's name was unscrewed from the Whitney Museum's donor wall on Friday at 3 p.m. The plate was 3 inches by 12 inches, brass. It came off in 11 seconds. The Metropolitan Museum followed Saturday morning. Lincoln Center on Monday. By the end of the week, Eleanor Whitmore's name had been removed from 6 donor walls and 3 foundation boards. Her monthly bridge group canceled Sunday afternoon. 2 of the women in that group held shares in Carrington Equity. Her phone, which had received 72 text messages on Saturday morning, received none on Sunday night. On Tuesday of the second week, Ava made a single public announcement. She did it through Theo on a single page of letterhead, posted to the new Carrington Holdings website at 9 a.m. The Whitmore Foundation would be renamed the Carrington Whitmore Foundation. New interim CEO, effective immediately, Dr. Maya Coleman. MIT, doctorate in mechanical engineering, 6 years as a Carrington Equity portfolio leader, the youngest black woman ever appointed to a Fortune 500 C-suite. The press release was 4 sentences. It moved markets by another 2%. Maya was photographed walking into Whitmore Holdings' Madison Avenue headquarters on Wednesday morning. She wore a deep emerald suit. The same security desk that had once required Ava to sign in as guest stood for her. Wesley Brooks left the plaza that same week. He gave 6 weeks' notice and walked into Ava's Garment District office on a Friday morning with a single duffel bag. Ava hired him as head of personal security. She paid him triple. He told the cameras on the way in 1 sentence, "I should have looked harder the first time." The clip ran on every cable news cycle for 48 hours. By Friday of the second week, the cameras stationed outside Whitmore Holdings' Midtown headquarters were filming something different. Movers in navy coveralls were carrying boxes out of the executive suite under a slow gray November rain. Harrison's office plate had already been removed. Spencer's the day before. Eleanor's 2 days before that. The boxes, 18 of them, were stacked in the lobby beside the news crews. The rain darkened everything. Inside the building, on the 42nd floor, Dr. Maya Coleman sat at the desk Harrison had occupied for 9 years. Maya had found one item in Harrison's desk drawer Wednesday morning, a framed copy of the 2017 Whitmore Holdings prospectus. The page where Ava's signature should have appeared had been carefully torn out. Maya kept the frame. She replaced the prospectus with the morality clause Theo had read aloud Saturday night. She had also asked the cleaning crew to leave one thing on the desk: the single pearl Ava had picked up off the marble Saturday night. It sat there in a small glass dish, catching the light. 6 months passed. The Carrington Whitmore Foundation held its first annual gala under new leadership on a Saturday in May. Same grand ballroom at the Plaza Hotel, the same chandelier, the same marble floor, the same revolving door on Fifth Avenue. Almost nothing else was the same. 400 names on the guest list. 270 of them new. The deputy mayor again, the founder of Black Girls Code, 8 scholarship students from Howard, Spelman, MIT. 31 entrepreneurs the old Whitmore board had rejected, now writing checks from the new one. Ava Carrington walked in at 7 p.m. through the same revolving door she had been pushed out of in November. The doorman, Owen, opened it for her with a small bow. She bowed back. He cried a little, quietly, in his uniform. She wore a deep emerald gown, still simple, no logos. Her mother's pearls were back, restrung. The chandelier light caught them once. Dr. Maya Coleman met her at the door, in a tuxedo cut sharp enough to legislate. The two women walked the ballroom carpet together. Olivia Sutton, now of the Atlantic, was already at her table. The string quartet did not play Vivaldi this time. They played something newer. Somewhere in the country, at the same hour, the Whitmores were elsewhere. Harrison Whitmore sat at a long table in another deposition room, his 19th session of the year. He had pled the fifth so many times the court reporter had started typing a macro. His ring finger no longer twitched. It had stopped in March. Eleanor Whitmore was packing the last of her crystal in a brownstone she no longer owned. The Hamptons had sold in February. The Park Avenue penthouse closed Tuesday. The buyers, a young black couple in tech, had not asked for the chandeliers. Spencer Whitmore sat in courtroom 7 of the U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York. The plaintiff's attorney was reading his Slack messages aloud for the jury. The class action had grown to 140 plaintiffs. Settlement, $42 million. Spencer's personal share, after insurance, was 9. Vivian Whitmore wiped down the metal tables of a midtown homeless shelter, 4 months into her community service plea. The kitchen manager, Loretta, had stopped trying to make small talk. Vivian folded another napkin. The mascara on her face was none. Back at the plaza, Ava took the dais. She did not raise the microphone. The room had already gone quiet. She did not thank donors. She did not list dollar figures. She did not mention the Whitmores by name. She thanked Owen, the doorman, who had opened a door for her twice. She thanked Wesley Brooks, sitting at table 1 in a Carrington Equity blazer. She thanked Tomas, the waiter from November, now a sommelier in training, certification paid by Ava. She thanked the valet who had recognized her name in the cold. Each of them sat at table 1. Each of them stood when she said their name. Then she announced the new initiative, the Carrington Whitmore Scholarship, $50 million over 10 years. Full ride plus seed capital for first-gen black and brown entrepreneurs. 200 recipients per year. Applications opened at midnight. The room rose, not in a standing ovation, but slowly, one chair at a time, like a wave. When the applause settled, Ava reached into her clutch, the same one from November, strap re-stitched. She lifted out a small object, a single pearl, the one that had spun for an absurdly long time on the marble of this ballroom, 6 months and 22 minutes ago. She set it on the edge of the podium in the chandelier light. "This," she said, "is what they thought I was." She paused. "I want you to remember what we are." The room did not breathe. The single pearl caught the light. It did not move. If a woman in a plain dress walked past you tonight at a gala, what would you assume? Drop your answer in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe, and never assume you know who's writing the check.